Let's say that you had a huge array with all of your friends' names on it, and for whatever reason, you wanted to print all of those names to the console. Could you imagine having to individually access each of those array elements just to print them to the console? It would take forever, except for me, because I actually don't have any friends. This is where we're going to implement the powerful tool known as loops. You may have heard of them before. And we're going to be using a for loop to iterate through each element in the array and print it to the console. So first, let's create this array, and I'm going to roleplay as someone with friends for the purpose of this video. So let's create a string array, call it friends, and inside of it, we're going to initialize, or should I say, add a bunch of elements to it. So we have an array object for strings, and the identifier for this array is called friends, and inside we have a bunch of string values of our friends' names. Now let's make our for loop. We're going to do that by typing for and pressing tab twice, which will give us a skeleton of the for loop. For our iteration variable, we're going to keep it as it is, int I is 0. And then we have to ask ourselves a question. How many times are we going to loop through this array to print out each name? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we want the length to be 5. Now, how would we access these elements given the index variable I? First, we know how to access an element of an array. Remember, it's just the name of the array followed by brackets. So we would have friends brackets, then the index of the element. And in this case, we're using I as our index for the array to get the value, to get the element. And what do we want to do with this value? Well, we want to print it to the console. So let's put that in here. So before we run the program, this is what it'll do. I is going to be 0. It's going to go down here to the right line. It's going to go to friends. I will be 0 right here. Friends 0 is Mike. It's going to print that. It's going to iterate I. I is now 1. Right line, friends 1. Friends 1 is John. It's going to write that to the console. Then it's going to iterate I. So now I is 2. It's going to write friends 2. Friends 2 is Ezekiel. And it's going to keep on doing that until I is 5. And if we run this, it goes all the way to Maximus from Mike, printing all names inside of this array. And that is how to loop through an array using a for loop.